No information about that. So
we're gonna buy a homestead together and just read books
seriously.
all the time.
Yeah, seriously.
Like the four corners.
Anybody want to join us? We'll all move to a homestead, go read books and live off the garden, live off the land.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the dream.
Would you be good at that?
Yeah.
Some parts of it, yeah.
Honestly, I think you kind of would be. Weirdly, I think you would.
And
be.
you'd at least be our sourdough
Yeah.
person.
That is amazing.
That's key. That is.
And
there needs to be
that's
one
your
person
main
devoted
role.
to sourdough.
bread baker.
And then you just add in the milling of the flour, and then Lizzie can grow the grains. So there's the combo.
Wow.
It's gonna work.
Let's do it.
Yep.
First
time homesteaders.
Yes, exactly. That's the new channel.
That's a good channel idea. There's probably 1 million of those channels already.
What's like the most popular homesteading? What's the show that came out a while ago? Not the Swiss Family Robinsons.
What?
It came out
I don't even know what this would look like.
There's the one guy that used to rescue homesteads. I used to watch that.
Whoa, what does that even mean? Like people
they,
who live in homesteads hire him to like...
Yeah, like they couldn't provide for themselves, and then he would come and like streamline their, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
You're
Use
probably
more
good at that,
cows
too.
and less of this, more corn.
Like I've never even like been to a farm. I feel like you're like
Liz, you got to get to a farm.
Theoretically country.
Yeah. That's great. Theoretically.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to let's get on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Knock out some discussion of these chapters.
Helm's Deep.
Yeah, we have 2 quick chapters. Helm's Deep and the Road to Isengard. I don't think this discussion is going to be short. I don't think it's going to be crazy long either. I mean, maybe, I think honestly, I take that back. I think it will be kind of long because I have a lot to talk about in these chapters. But just 2 chapters, which is kind of great.
Yeah.
So just give me to start, give me your general overall feelings of the Helm's Deep. What do you think?
The chapter or the location?
The chapter.
It felt like the primest of all the chapters.
Really?
Yeah, like something about it. I was just like, oh, this is why we're here. Like it just felt like it was like all leading to this moment in a lot of ways.
We also listened to it.
Yeah.
And then you probably read it also.
I did reread it, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
But it was great to listen to because I think it kept the pace going of like the chaos. And because I'm used to my own pace, I was like, oh my goodness, we're moving and this is happening. Explosions. Wait, what did I miss? And it actually felt like I was in the battle.
That's kind of sweet.
So I think it was good. And then I could slow my pace and reread and soak it all in. But yeah, great chapter. I loved it.
I didn't slow it down.
Did you watch all of the second movie then?
Most of it.
Okay.
We're almost done with it. I really have been enjoying watching it.
Nice.
And then reading it because then I'm actually more invested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
and I know the characters a little bit more.
Except there's some that
because
randomly come up.
listening to it is hard.
Yes. Just listening to it without any context is a really difficult thing.
Yep.
Because I was even trying to think through this. Visualizing Helm's Deep from the book is so difficult.
I thought that too. I
I'm
was
like,
not
what the
much
heck are
to
these
see.
words?
Wait, I thought it like described it so well.
Well, you're an environmentalist. You probably know what a comb is.
No, I don't know what any of that
anyway.
I literally
But,
didn't know
like,
what that was till the end of the chapter, and I still
just
don't know.
Made it up in my
I
mind,
missed
but they
all that.
spent so much time describing it, and I was like, this is crazy. But then as the battle went on, I was like, oh, I know where we are. Like, you told me about that earlier. So I was like, I literally put that in my notes. Like, the description pays off later. But
I think it does, but at the same time, I think I was overwhelmed by the description. Like, I think because early on when they're walking to Helm's Deep, the descriptions are great because they're deciding where they're gonna battle these orcs.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh great, okay, so I have like my bearings for all this. But still, during the battle, I'm like, I understood it, but I'm like, I don't know where. I don't know how to lay this out in my head.
Oh,
I don't
maybe
know
I
how
just
big
have more
this is.
trust in myself that my imagination like has to be right.
Well, it was like I would be imagining it one way, and then there'd be a line where I'm like, oh wait, Aragorn's down there.
Yeah.
I thought he was okay, or
Yeah.
like something else would happen. Aragorn's standing on top of something, waving a hand, and then arrows. Wait, arrows from this side or this side, and then he jumps down an explosion, and I'm like, I'm lost. But I know he's safe now. Yeah.
And then on top of that, the thing that threw me off the most out of everything was in the next chapter when all of a sudden there's Fangorn Forest is right on the precipice of this. I'm like, how did this get here? Like,
They all just
I
ran
like-
to watch.
Yeah, seriously. I'm like,
sit there
what
the
is
whole
going
time.
on here? How is this forest so close? It should be. I was looking on maps and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then later, I like typed it in Discord. I was like, how does this actually logistically make sense? It's like 50 miles. In the book, it seems like they just literally walk out Helm's Deep and they're like, there's this forest right there. And someone was like, just keep reading. And I did, and I was just like, oh yeah, the trees got up and moved, and okay.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I liked it because I don't think I've read a war scene in anything ever. So I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
how that plays out in a book, because even like the scenes like I have read in a war story, you're following one character through their little journey. But just to see like a whole city in war and then you're like popping into different people, I thought it was so interesting.
It was.
It was fun.
And I have to say that too. Like, I was writing about this chapter before, and I haven't read a ton of war scenes either, but this is a really well-paced war scene, I thought. Because I'm like, I'm sure I've like read certain books with the war scenes, and some of them have been just either really, really long, and like I'm like, I don't need every little last detail of this. I can kind of picture things in my head. And some of them, they just skirt war scenes altogether.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're more primed for movies, but that was until I read Helm's Deep, and I'm like, oh wow, this is like actually a riveting war scene. I thought it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, like the action in it.
Yeah.
I missed all the description about Helm's Deep because I didn't.
But now you can picture it.
Yeah.
Watch the movie.
And yeah, now that you described it for me,
I didn't do anything.
But I will say
no,
too,
after watching it helps.
the movies I think
No.
depicted Helm's Deep well. So like
Yeah.
if you have, I had that
Is
image in
what
my
it
head,
was?
but like the characters and the positioning and the shifting was different.
I mean, Aragorn's not even in Helm's Deep in the beginning.
Oh yeah, like when it was
In the
starting,
movies.
he was in the movie.
Yeah.
The warg thing.
And then I'm like,
Yeah.
that didn't happen in the book, right?
Yeah, I know.
I could have missed it. I mean,
Yeah.
It did not
lately.
happen.
But we'll keep discussing this. But welcome to the podcast. I'm John,
Jen.
Danny.
And Lizzie.
and this is the Fellowship of the First Time Readers.
Yeah.
So let's methodically go through this chapter. Let's do a quick summary of Helm's Deep.
Snoozing.
Alright.
Wake up, Jen.
I will assume.
No one wakes me up because then you get to keep talking.
I never wake
So
people
true.
up.
Lizzie, you have a summary or
No.
Oh, okay.
It's all you.
The crew retreats to Helm's Deep to make the defense, and they do make quite a defense. The fight was crazy with ladders and explosions and trees and Erkenbrand, but they win gloriously in the end.
Erkenbrand. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but I love him so much.
Yeah,
He
he's
comes
so
in on his
cool.
red shield and he's like really tall. I love that.
He was a minor thing.
Yeah,
I missed it when
very
we listened,
minor.
and then he got mentioned in the next chapter. Then when I was reading it, I'm like, wait, who is he? What did he do?
Yeah, it took me a few.
Yeah,
go-throughs.
weird.
At first, I thought Erkenbrand was a location. I was like,
Mm.
where is this? What is going on?
But I think
And
he
then-
was like the steward of Helm's Deep, kind of. Like, I think he lived there full time as like an honorable guy in Rohan, but that was like his home.
Yeah,
And then he was gone. I don't know exactly
because
why.
he was going
around
out to
this
marshal
time.
some of the other soldiers, I think, and
That
then I
makes
think
sense.
he got ambushed. So he was marshaling like 1,000 soldiers, 1,000 footmen. Those soldiers kept getting ambushed, which is why like the whole journey to Helm's Deep felt chaotic because they were bringing reports. There were like all these orc factions
Mhm.
running around and like ambushing these guys, and then that's why Gandalf goes and runs out to him because I think he like knew he needed those men, so he goes running out. But I think you're right. He was like the warden or the ward of Helm's Deep. That's
Mm.
kind of what I gathered. But his physical description is kind of cool. But he's minor character.
Isn't that different in the book too? Like Gandalf just leaves without explaining it, and then is that in the movie when he's like, "Look to the east"?
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, it is
whatever?
in the
Dawn
movie.
of the fifth
Yeah,
day.
so he
look
just,
to
Like
the-
very
leaves.
purposefully to Aragorn.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yes.
In the book,
He just dips.
he's just gone.
Yeah.
And it was like really
Hey,
quick.
you
He-
kept saying that when we were listening.
Yeah.
what? He just
You're
left?
like, wait, did he say
Did he
it?
say Dawn of the Fifth Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's like no hope there. You just don't know if he's coming back.
And I feel like they knew, like, he still left with intention. He told them what they were doing, like what he was doing in a vague way. And then he just took off so fast. And everyone's like, even if we wanted to catch him, he's so fast on
Yeah.
Shadowfax. Oh, well, hope he comes back. And Aragorn had a lot of faith, but I felt like Theoden was losing faith a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, that was actually interesting to see Theoden kind of losing faith a little bit in that.
But he's way better in the book than he is in the movie.
So much. I love that you said that. So much better in the book than the movie. But there was one moment when they were marching there. He was like, "Oh, I wish I had one of my 2 counselors here." I'm like,
one of your
time
2?
out. You would want Wormtongue back? That's crazy to me.
I miss now
Keep
both
saying
my
Wormtail.
counselors, the old and the new.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
what
like,
the heck? How do you miss the old? What the heck is going on in this?
So again, it just makes me think Wormtongue really got in his head,
Yeah.
or like wasn't nearly as bad as Gandalf thinks. No, he is bad. We know it.
He probably
But Theoden
felt
is
like a
locked
good
in.
person until Gandalf like brought that into light.
Yeah.
Like true manipulation.
It was wild though. That was a
Gaslighting.
wild line.
Yeah,
I could not believe that.
definitely.
This is more a generic question for the entire series. Like, just take a step back. I want to know who is your favorite character so far? We maybe should have done this at the end, but I'm just curious about that because like a lot of characters are popping up, and I'm finding that I love them. Like, Theoden comes up, and I think he was so much better in the book than the movie. So good.
Yeah.
Mary
All
and
eyes on
Pippin are really funny in the book.
Jen. Yeah. Especially at the end of this
So,
second chapter. Yeah.
I've been enjoying them.
Yeah.
But favorite, I don't know.
And he reads them really well too. Like their little Scottish accent or whatever.
Yeah.
He does a great job reading them.
It was my instinct, but I wanted to take longer to think about it. But same, Gimli.
Yeah.
It's a little controversial. I love movie Aragorn. Book Aragorn's all right.
What?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
For real?
I think I'm combining them, so I can't.
Yeah.
Brief support to that. I think he brings up his kingness a little too much, and I think his humility in the movie is what I love about it.
Yeah.
And then it's the little things like in the movies we get him with the horse. He calms the horse down. He's like a horse master, you know? You're like, oh, the animals, there's an instinct there, there's trust. Then in Helm's Deep, he says to Theoden, ride with me.
Yeah, he's the one.
But in the
that says
books,
that.
Theoden is the one who comes up with the idea. So it's just these little things where I'm like, if I'm honest, Book Aragorn is not at the level that I've elevated him in the movies. But Gimli is far better. I liked him in the movies, but he is awesome.
Yeah,
in the
Gimli
books.
is significantly better. And I was thinking about this too because I was writing an essay on that about character development because the character development is so different, and it's different like hero tropes. And I was talking about this a long time ago with Nemo, one of our oldest supporters here, and he was saying that like the hero arc was different in Tolkien's time, and because Tolkien is going off of like these old fables and these like epic poems. And when you have a hero like that, the hero just starts off being good. Like their hero's journey is different from what it looks like now. Like our hero's journey is exactly what Aragorn is, which is like someone who doesn't want to be king, who's very humble, who just wants to live like a isolated farmer's life or like ranger's life. And then all of a sudden he becomes king and he's like great at it, and everyone knows he's gonna be great at it. In the book, it's different because Aragorn just like is ready to be king from the get-go. And it does knock off some of his like humility because he's not quite as humble in the book as the movie. But the one thing I'll say about him though is that like yes, he seems to desire and want to be king, but at the same point, the descriptions of his kingliness come from the narration rather than like him proclaiming himself to be king. Like there was one spot in this that I loved because like everyone's just in awe of this guy. So I'm starting to fall in awe of this guy too. There's one description where he like pokes his head over the wall and is like treating with the orcs and the hillmen. I'm like, this is a weird section. And then it says the orcs laughed at him, but the hillmen were like standing in awe of him. They were like stunned by how kingly this person was. I was like, that's kind of cool. That's a cool description. Cool. Yeah. So there's like something otherworldly about him that I kind of like. But I'm the same. I think Gimli is actually my favorite character so far. And you're gonna say?
I'm gonna say Gandalf.
Whoa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Like I want to say Theoden because I love him in the movies, but I just think having spent more time in the books with Gandalf, I have to say Gandalf.
What is it about him?
I love his like, he's so calm and he takes everything as it comes. Even though I feel like he's the one that knows the most, he's like, we'll see. Like, maybe hope prevails. Maybe hope doesn't prevail. And I feel like he's never, like, making anyone blindly trust him either as the leader, where he's just, like, he's with them all, but he knows the most. But then, like, I feel like he just balances that so well.
You gotta write an essay on your idea of Dumbledore versus Gandalf.
That's a good essay.
That would go crazy. I should do that.
His communication skills need some work.
Who, Gandalf?
Yes.
And Dumbledore
Why?
for that.
But, like, we're just trusting
Dumbledore.
Gandalf because he's a wizard, you know? Like, don't put undue pressure on him.
Yeah, but if you are leaving a war to go collect people,
Yeah, I would let you know.
at least need to let me know. Like, you know,
Yeah.
shoot me
Give
a
me
text
3
about
days.
that.
Look
Hey,
to the west, the east,
exactly,
whatever.
Good
Yeah,
move.
no, I'm with that.
That was the hardest part for me to wrap my head around. Is like he knows what he's doing, and he knows what needs to be done.
But maybe he's doing it to, like, build their independence. You know?
Yes.
Maybe it's a tactic.
And it felt like a movement in the book too, where we didn't know where Gandalf was, and we didn't know he was going to come back, and your expectations are so low
Yeah.
that, like, when he comes back, you're like, "What? This is amazing!" So, yeah.
We all
Gandalf's
pick
okay.
different people.
No, I mean,
Oh, wait.
Yeah,
oh,
both
you
Gimli.
were saying-
Mine
Yeah,
doesn't
because you
really
just
count.
talked about Aragorn. He
what
wasn't
do
your
you
pick.
mean yours doesn't really count?
Because I'm not in depthly reading this book.
Every
It does
opinion
not
counts.
matter.
No, honestly, I think Merry and Pippin are two of my favorites too,
Yeah.
because I love their loyalty in the beginning, and it just, like, stays steady and true.
Mhm.
I can't distinguish between
favorite.
them still, though. Like, they're just
Yeah.
the
I
same.
know. I'm
I
trying
think they're
to.
so different. Really?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
have no
help us
idea.
out, John.
Because Mary,
But someone has brown
confident
curly
one, right?
hair.
Huh?
I think Mary.
Isn't Mary the confident one? Like, he's
Yes.
always, like, the first one to, like, say
Yep.
something, and Pippin's kind of, like, following along, kind of.
Yeah, I think Pippin's a bit more immature. He's a bit more of a follower. I think that, honestly, I will say their movie depictions are pretty good with, like, the roundness of their personality, but they're both way more loyal and, like, way more brave in the book than they are in the movie. But,
Yeah.
like, Mary is a bit more serious, a bit more, like, grounded. He's a little bit more mature than Pippin. Pippin is, like, still more of a wild card, but his bravery comes out in crazy amounts. And he's like, I think their description in the end of the 8th chapter, when Mary is the one that's, like, still kind of awake,
Yeah.
being the door ward, and
Yeah,
Pippin's
yeah.
like knocked
Yeah.
out.
No, he
Like,
opens
that is-
one eye.
Yeah, that is who they are as
I
characters.
love that.
That was the first thing that I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to start to, like, remember who's who.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, all right, now this feels like a distinct moment. But even the Treebeard chapters, I can't distinguish
Yeah.
who said what, who did what. I'm like, I'm viewing them together too
Yep.
much. But now I'm gonna try to, like, lock it in. Mary, more mature.
least
Mature
it's,
Mary.
what
The
I think.
next chapter is so funny, too, and the welcoming everyone.
That
And that's
was-
Mary saying
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And it's great, and it's interesting too, because that actually spills off into the 3rd movie. So you got to start watching the 3rd movie after that, because they actually do have that welcome with the whole company that's coming, and a lot of the lines are the same. It's great. But yeah, what did you guys have in this chapter?
The Wild Men, I didn't remember them being a part of it in the movies. So whether they were in the battle or not, I think maybe they were around Rohan, possibly. But if they were around, I just didn't remember it. So
In the extended, there's a scene with them.
Ooh, yeah, I think I do remember that actually.
Saruman is like he's not. They don't go to
He's
the war
talking
with them,
to
but he's
them.
talking to them, and he's like, "They stole your lands,"
Oh,
and the one guy
yeah,
goes,
yeah,
"Murder
yeah.
him!"
Yeah.
And then they
But
go
then
off.
they don't show up in the battle.
They don't show up in the battle. I'm
So
sure
that's-
there's like maybe.
but
like
they
an
must be around.
understanding.
But either way, I love the depth of it there.
Yeah, that was cool, and I love too that at the end, like they give them honor and death, and the Hillmen are like baffled because all
Love
that
that
Saruman has
part.
been giving them is propaganda,
Yep.
saying like they're like they'll eat your children and they'll like do
Mhm.
terrible things,
Mm.
and
They're like,
it's all
"Mercy?"
been wrong. Yeah.
Huh.
It's really cool, and I love that they actually give them honor in their death too. Like they have a whole burial mound for these guys, which is kind of cool.
It was really cool. That's kingly stuff. There was some funny stuff Legolas was saying where I was just laughing to myself because he was saying but you comfort me, Gimli. I'm glad to have you standing nigh with your stout legs and your hard axe. I wish there were more of your kin among us. But even more I would give for 100 good archers of Mirkwood. So it's just kind of like I'm laughing that he's like, oh, I'd love to have some dwarves, but not as much as elves, though. They're better.
Yeah.
And that brings up the other point. The elves never showed up.
Yes.
I was like, oh, man, this battle is looking bleak with no elf help. And I kept
They were
waiting for them to
supposed
show
to.
up. Well, we didn't get to that part of the movie yet because there's a lot of Frodo and Sam stuff in the movie.
Are you skipping over that or watching all that?
We're watching it all.
Nice.
And you'll be able to keep that in your mind. But I didn't even process until today when we're looking at all the things that we're like, oh, 3 more chapters till the end of the book. And I'm like, oh, end of like book 3.
book 3,
and then we're going to have book 4, which might be all
you have
Frodo
to
and Sam
you have to
catch up.
rewatch all the movie too.
So all that Frodo and Sam stuff we're going to get to.
Oh, they like intertwined it.
yeah.
They intertwined.
Movies, yeah.
Yep. You didn't even notice that the books haven't had Frodo or Sam in like a long time. Because they're like,
been
yeah,
a
we're
while.
having
I
fun
guess
with these
true.
boys.
Well,
Yeah,
it's-
because they're
And it's true because the books have been pretty immersive with like this
Yeah.
single journey, so it just feels like it's all flowing very well. I will say though, I am kind of excited to get back to Sam and Frodo. I
Yeah,
didn't
me
think
too.
I would say that, but I'm kind of pumped to get back to them.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like what you were saying with that. I think I feel like Peter Jackson like saw that line and was like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm actually gonna throw some elves, not from Mirkwood, from Lothlorien, and kind of just like threw them in there. But I actually, what is your guys' impression of the Kingdom of Rohan? Like what? I mean, just compare it to the movie too. Do you think it's an accurate depiction of Rohan in the movie?
They seem way more valiant in the books to me.
Yeah.
Like the movies was
true.
just a big cat and mouse thing where like just flee to the hills and hide.
Mm.
But like I don't know, they seem so well prepared. Everybody seems like they're fighting. And they're also like I feel like they're just pros. Like I feel like they've just
Yeah.
done it before. I don't know. Like there wasn't that much playing into like the little boys are fighting and like you
Yeah.
know like they're all gonna die. I don't know. They felt like they had a good stance like the whole battle.
Yeah. There's a funny meme, one of my favorite memes. I think one of my favorite characters in the books, minor characters, is Hama. And
He died.
he died.
I was like,
tragic death. Well, he dies in the movie too, but a ward bites his face off.
And I didn't even
Yeah, I
realize
didn't
that
even,
until
like,
we
that did
watched it.
not
I was
go-
like, oh, he
I
really
know.
does die? Oh.
But then, did you catch this in the movies? This isn't what a lot of people miss this one. But when Aragorn goes to that one kid and goes, "Give me your sword," and he tests out the sword, he goes, "What's your name?" And he goes, "My name is Hala, son of Hama, my lord." That's Hama's.
Oh my
son.
god.
Oh my goodness.
And then there's
No
like a
way.
there's like a meme where it's like,
I don't remember that.
Aragorn goes,
That's that part.
Aragorn goes, "There's always hope," and then all of a sudden there's like a picture of Hama like flying with the explosion in the wall. There's like they point up a little arrow. This is Hama right here, like he's dead. It's like so
Yikes.
tragic.
Oh no.
But yeah, I guess that's his son. But yeah,
Aw.
I think I'm with you that in the movie, they like the Kingdom of Rohan seems like just a bunch of like people who shouldn't be fighting.
Yeah.
In the book, it's somewhat the same because they have the same line. Like some either have seen too many winters or too few.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But in the movie or in the book, they just seem like a stronger kingdom to me. Like in the book, it didn't seem like they needed the elves. In the movies,
Yeah.
it did.
Yeah.
Like here, they're
That's
fighting,
true.
and there's like 1,000 of them in this keep, and they're fighting, and they're like holding their own. They're like struggling, like it's not looking great, but like they seemed a lot stronger and a lot more able to actually fight than they did in the movies to me.
Yeah, in the movies, it was like Gandalf saved them. They
Mhm.
would have died without
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But in the book, when I was reading it today, at least, I was like, I think they would have won
Yeah, they were just
even
exhausted.
if nobody else came to help. Maybe I'd have to like see what other people think, but that was my impression. Where they drove everyone back to the dike, and it cleared off the whole area between. So I'm like, they retook the entire field.
Yeah.
And orcs are running. I mean, it seemed like there were a couple moments they were cowards. So I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, these orcs, once there was that shift, they took off.
Yeah.
But I was like, I think they actually would have won this battle, even if Gandalf didn't show up and even if the trees didn't show up. Maybe the trees helped with some fear elements, or maybe Gandalf had some magic coward spell going on. But
weren't they made of trees? Orcs too somehow.
Made of trees?
No, like how in the movies they're showing them being like born out of
the ground.
Is the ground? I always thought it was the trees.
I mean, I don't know a lot about it.
It's gross.
Okay.
But I never connected them with trees.
The only I did, I'm probably totally wrong. But then I'm thinking if like the trees were, you just said the trees maybe scared them. So I was like, oh, maybe that they came from it and they're attacking them. Anyways.
Well, it's interesting too because I think they're part of maybe the reason why they're scared with the trees too is because they're chopping them down because they're right on Fangorn's like Orthanc is right by Fangorn Forest, so like they're chopping down tons of trees, which is why the Ents march to war. And so when they're marching to battle, it's like they go and all of a sudden they don't see any trees, and all of a sudden they're retreating and they just see a bunch of trees, and like those trees would terrify. I would be like, how did these trees get here? I would be so scared. I would be terrified.
I can't believe it. Wait, I really thought they came out of the trees.
In the movies,
I thought no,
Just
because
go
I
with-
thought they used like they cut down the trees and they used the whole trunk.
I
and,
was
like,
just gonna say, I
the
remember there's
inside
a big old tree goes
I can honestly
tumbling
see
into
how you
it.
could-
and then in
Yeah.
the trunks,
That's so
they're
funny.
like the sack of
Maybe
them
there's, like, a
coming
different
out.
breed.
That's funny, yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay,
I like that.
wow.
Gray area.
New theory.
Headcanon.
Headcanon.
Okay. Thanks for making me feel better, guys.
One thing I noticed about the orcs in the books versus the movies is like, to me in the movies, 90% of my fear of them was just like the sheer amount of how much, like how many there are versus the Rohirrim. But then in the books, they're like hiding and they're playing dead and they jump out. And then like even talking to Aragorn, they're like chanting and like, I don't know, they had like all kinds of tactics. And like, I know they're literally bred for war, but I feel like that was so much bigger. Like you could see that so much more in the book than like, kind of just thought they were like, oh, they're all just like a big scary crowd of people and they're just bodies that you have to get through. But then like this, they had order.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I kind of love that too because the whole thing felt strategic, way more strategic than the movies. In the movies are like they hit the walls and they have ladders and it's just an onslaught. It's like, let's get 10,000 people over the wall so we can slaughter these people. In the books, it was like so strategic. That when all of a sudden like 15 bodies sprung from the dead bodies, I was like, how smart is that?
I know, that's ridiculous.
And then they tried to sneak past
In
that
the
little grate in the
thing,
culvert.
yeah.
I'm like, that's brilliant too. And they actually were able to manage to do it, but then they held that. They like pushed them back from that. The whole thing felt like moves and counter moves. It was just great warfare, like good strategy, I think. And then, one of my favorite parts too, how kind of is with that is just like the tone and the mood of this chapter, where in the book you have, or in the movie you have this like lightning and this thunder that goes off, but then everything is still lit so well, like you can still see everything. I thought it was terrifying with the lightning in this because everything's so dark and all of a sudden they're fighting and they're shooting arrows and all of a sudden the lightning peels and like you get a quick glimpse of like this mass. I think it talked about it like it's corn, it's like a cornfield, that they're seeing like the engines of war move everywhere and it's like terrifying. And then all of a sudden the lightning goes away, the light goes away and it's like dark again and you're fighting. I'm like, it was a terrifying depiction. It's like kind of cool. So I was a fan of that.
I like that the humor between Gimli and Legolas of counting orc deaths.
I was very happy
love that was in here.
Yeah, I have actually had that moment written down. They turned and ran. At that moment, some dozen orcs that had lain motionless among the slain leapt to their feet and came silently and swiftly behind. That's crazy. And I love too. Oh, again, this was it continues on as like my favorite part of this chapter. Two flung themselves to the ground at Éomer's heels, tripped him, and in a moment they were on top of him. But a small dark figure that none had observed sprang out of the shadows and gave a hoarse shout. Baruch Kazad! Kazad Aimenu! An axe swung and swept back. Two orcs fell headless, the rest fled. Éomer struggled to his feet, even as Aragorn ran back to his aid. Like that's a great depiction of Gimli right there. That makes you
10
love him even
orcs
more.
fled when they watched a single move from this guy.
I love it. He's smooth. And he had a serious battle wound at the end too.
Yeah.
But yeah, great battle.
Oh, you missed that part too.
He came
Yeah,
out,
it was a head wound.
Yeah, his helm was destroyed.
Helm.
His helm was gone. Had a big wound on his head.
Yeah, missed that.
But yeah.
I'm just here to
Very
support you guys.
Yeah, thank you. We need that.
There was when Aragorn was kind of defending the stairs as the last guys were going up to retreat. A few orcs were around or like grabbed him, got close, and then someone from above, I guess, threw a boulder down and smashed the orcs. And I was just thinking that is an impressive throw that nearly crushed the future king, you know. But I guess they were using whatever they had. Toss those boulders.
Good accuracy. That one guy threw it and he's like, really hope it doesn't hit that guy.
Yeah.
Well, they make
Oh,
Merry and Pippin do that when they're on the end.
Yeah,
At the
yeah,
end,
yeah.
they throw
Oh,
the
They're,
boulders
yeah.
on.
Nice.
they're so accurate.
Yeah.
Perfect little shooters over there. Yeah, the whole battle was fun. It was like strategic, very good ambiance, and like the whole mood was pretty good. And then the ending was just great too. I loved the ending. Yeah.
Why was Aragorn so bold to get up and want to parlay with them and all that? And then why did he say, like, now's your last chance for surrender?
Yeah.
Every one of you is going to die. Where did that confidence come from? I'm like, did he know that Gandalf was coming back then? Did he have a reason to be so confident? Or was he bluffing? Or, well, like, what was his mentality? Or was it a last... I don't know. Where I kind of was like, it doesn't feel like you're in a position to make these threats. So what was his thought behind it?
Honestly, that question popped in my head too, and I came up with a theory behind that one because there was another section where it said like the men were very, very tired and weary, and they were like dragging, and then Éomer like jumped into battle and like he reinvigorated the men, and I was like, I think what Aragorn is doing in this instance is just doing this as like a show to reinvigorate the men because they're dead tired, they're like exhausted, they don't want to keep doing this, and then if Aragorn pops up and shows he has like a ton of confidence that they're not going to be able to take it, and if he's like saying, if I'm there exhausted sitting there on the ground, all of a sudden Aragorn pops his head over and goes, "You better surrender because we're going to slaughter all of you before this is over."
Yeah.
He's like, "No one's ever taken the Hornburg before." I'm like, all right, he's right. Let's go. Let's get out to war. Let's fight these guys.
So it was to psych people up a little bit.
I think it was to psych people up just a smidge. Like give people a little bit of confidence because I was kind of in the same boat. Like I feel like he was saying that out of his butt. Like there was no legitimacy behind that. Like I'm confident in his ability to kill a lot of orcs, but there's thousands that he has to, mow through.
Yep.
So I don't know. What do you think about that? Liz, you're shaking your head like, no.
Good, I agree.
That was a crazy section to me though, when he like pops his head over and is actually like talking to the orcs. I thought that was crazy.
That was wild.
So wild.
I was kind of surprised that they talked back too. Like, it's like, who are you to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, I really loved when they ride out over like the little bridge thing. That's like a big scene in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, you said it. It's like the reverse, right? Where Theoden
it was like
brings it up,
idea.
that was wild.
At least they'll sing about us in songs if anyone survives this, or whatever he said.
Yeah.
Theoden he's an extremist. I feel like he always thinks he's gonna die.
Yeah. Well, I did like Aragorn's confidence in Gandalf. Because Theoden, I forget where it was, somewhere in here, but he defends him because that's where Theoden says what can we do against such reckless hate? I should not have rashly ridden forth to meet for all the arts of Gandalf. His counsel seems not so good. And then Aragorn says, do not judge the counsel of Gandalf until all is over. So he had faith Gandalf was going to come back.
Yeah. And
I respect it.
this is maybe too where I think they got like Theoden's depiction in the movies a bit more because he seems not like weak here, but he seems a little bit more all over the place.
And he's just like hiding in the tower too, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was like, I hope he was doing something up there.
Yeah. Because who was the guy with him? He was another older guy.
I don't know.
God, what
I know.
what his name was.
Starts with a G because I thought it was similar to Gandalf's
Yeah.
sword.
Gamling.
Nice.
Gamling was there with him because he was like older. He had seen too many winters. But yeah, he was just like chilling in the tower. I guess he was commanding and doing certain things, and like, but it seemed like he wasn't actively involved. In the movies, he's a bit more actively involved.
Yeah.
At the same point, he's not. He's still like hiding in his tower, and then he has those lines that I can't stand in the movie where he's like, "Is this all you can conjure?" Saruman?
While he
I'm
stands
like,
up there by himself.
Dude, he conjured 10,000 people in like
Yup.
a few months. What are we talking about here? Something doesn't compute. But yeah, it was great when they rode out, cleared the bridge, and then one of my favorite lines in this whole chapter. There suddenly upon a ridge appeared a rider, clad in white, shining in the rising sun. Over the low hills the horns were sounding. Behind him, hastening down the long slopes, were 1,000 men on foot. Their swords were in their hands. Amid them strode a man, tall and strong. His shield was red, and he came to the valley's brink. He set to his lips a great black horn and blew a ringing blast. That's Erkenbrand right there.
Yeah.
Kind of love him. Yeah. I thought he was a good character. Like, he just had this aura to him. Like, being able to muster this many people, like, even he just seemed like he was a legendary warrior. They were talking about like his like deeds that he's done, and then all of a sudden he's like renowned for having this red shield. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then he just blows this horn. There are 1,000 footmen, not on horses. They all come charging down this hill. I'm like, it's a cool, still a very cool depiction. I kind of love it in the book. You guys have anything else in this chapter?
Let me check my notes.
What are your notes?
That's it.
I had this one line. The Hornburg, it was called, for a trumpet sounded upon the tower, echoed in the deep behind, as if armies long forgotten were issuing to war from caves beneath the hills. And that made me think of like Aragorn's army, like more than it made me just think of their own army. Cause
That's cool.
yeah, and I don't know. It just sounds like, is that the Dunedain? Is that what that is?
Oh.
Like, what are those ghost people army thing? Is
I
that
forgot what they're called. No, they're not.
Yeah.
That's what it makes me think of when I
Interesting.
read that.
I want to learn more about them. Yeah.
The armies long forgotten were issuing to war from caves beneath the hills.
Huh. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't notice
then that was like one little foreshadowing, and then Gimli right away at the beginning, he was like, line me up some orcs, I'll chop their heads right off. And then he just like kept doing that. I was like, okay, Gimli,
Yeah.
good job.
Uh-huh.
Did exactly what you said you would.
I like that Aragorn said, "Never did I see an axe so wielded."
Yeah.
About like
Sweet.
for him to be wowed by Gimli's axe moves.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool. All right, let's go on to chapter 8, The Road to Isengard. What do you guys think of this? Or let's do a quick summary of this one. This one was kind of all over the place too, but
Gandalf, Theoden, Éomer, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli ride through the forest and over river to Isengard.
Like an acronym.
The Ents took it over, and Merry and Pippin welcomed them.
perfect.
Wow.
Love that. This is where I kind of got a little, I mean, I was confused during the battle a little bit with like the locations of things. Because they were talking about burial mounds, like these trees that were there. I got so disoriented in this chapter because I didn't know what was going on. But then I looked on this online for this like diagram of Helm's Deep, and it cleared things up a little bit. It was just like a hand drawn sketch on just a piece of paper
Yeah, nice. I
of
love
someone
that.
like showing like this is the dike. They planted some people here, some people on the other side. There was like another little side thing for the hillmen. And they showed where like the orc rock thing was at the ends all made that no grass grows on or something like that. We talked about that later in the chapter, but yeah, it was hard to visualize. But what do you guys think of this chapter? What did you have?
I'm curious what it would be like to read this with no movie knowledge. if like how much suspense there would be at this point, or if you've already calculated the timeline and said, oh, I wonder if Treebeard made it over there and Fangorn's already moved in the forest. And I feel like it was like there's that hope of trusting Gandalf, and it was fun to read, the anticipation, but it's like still mysterious. It felt like just an in-between chapter to me, but still fun to read. I love hearing. Well, we'll wait till we get there.
Yeah.
What did everyone else think of the chapter?
I agree with you though. It did feel like an in-between chapter. I feel like just marching from one place to another. Some of these chapters do feel like that. It didn't like, I think this book oriented, I keep thinking the same thing that you're thinking, like what would this feel like if I hadn't seen the movies or had no knowledge of this? And I think this would be more of a significant chapter if I didn't know that, because this is like the reunion between Merry and Pippin. Like I already know that's going to happen in the book because I've seen the movie. So
Right.
I'm excited for that. But in this one, you don't know if that's going to happen. Like all of a sudden, Merry and Pippin's story, the Ents are marching down this thing, and then they're with Treebeard, and then all of a sudden you flip to Aragorn, like his journey, and then they're at Helm's Deep, and then they're going back to Orthanc. So you're like, they might meet, but all of a sudden at the end of this chapter, when they see two figures in the distance, it just is like, oh, that's Merry and Pippin. It just feels so good. It feels like, oh, this is so nice. It's like a great ending to the chapter where you have like a little bit more closure there. You're like, finally, they're back together. Everything's good. Everything's safe on this department.
Yep.
They need to to tie up a few ends. They need to meet up with Saruman, and they need to figure out a few other things. But this is where I got a little bit of closure in this chapter, which was kind of nice. So that's what I got. Yeah, the Hillmen and the Dunlanders were actually an interesting part of this chapter in the beginning. My guy Hama says, in the midst of the field before the Hornburg, 2 mounds were raised, and beneath them were laid all the riders of the Mark who fell in their defense. Those of the East Dales upon one side, and those of the Westfold upon the other. But the men of Dunland were set apart in a mound below the dike. In a grave alone under the shadow of the Hornburg lay Hama, captain of the Kingsguard. He fell before the gate. Oh, I was sad about that.
Poor Hama.
I know. He was my favorite little minor character there.
The men of Dunland were amazed. Saruman gave them propaganda.
I know, which is crazy. He was just feeding into their like insecurities about these the people of Rohan,
stirring them up.
And like Saruman is crafty. He knows what he's doing with that. And it's like it's interesting too, because there's a lot of that stuff in this book, even with the Rohan people from Rohan, and they had like the idea that they were selling horses. I'm like, Saruman is a master at weaving these little tales to make people distrust others. Like I'm sure that was a tale woven by Saruman, that they're selling horses to Mordor, and he's doing this all just for discord. And so he's doing this with the men of Dunland. He's like, oh, they've taken your lands. They show no mercy. They're like, evil people, and they believe it, and then they're able to do his bidding. Saruman just weaves people in his hand.
I kind of thought of that when it was talking about the description of Isengard, because like people must have visited him there, and it must have been kind of like a renowned spot for like the greatest wizard ever. And then I feel like it just slowly declined into like this scary place where obviously like orcs are being manufactured, I guess. But like it is kind of crazy that it's like kind of a ruin at this point, but it would have been, I would think, like a cool place to be and like a cool place to visit. And then
isn't there that depiction in when they're walking through this, like they go through it and they're like they see tons of houses and tons of like structures before they actually see the massive tower. I'm like with you, because I think it would have been a cool thing to see that, but like none of that is inhabited now. And it's like all orc stuff. So maybe that actually was all just where the orcs were living.
Also, like, how long has it been like this state for?
Right.
Because maybe that's like way longer than a normal human lifespan already. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I don't know.
It was spooky.
Yeah, definitely spooky.
Yeah, it's actually interesting too, because I keep thinking this with some of the movies, because Peter Jackson was originally like a horror movie director, and he didn't lean into any of that with this movie. I'm like, he could have directed some of these scenes. Like even at the battle at Helm's Deep, he could have directed a little bit different to like incorporate more horror elements. But this chapter, when they're going to Orthanc in the movies, it doesn't have any of like the eeriness that I thought it had in this chapter. Yeah. Like when they're marching there, I mean, I guess you just have to like be economical in your time. But when they're marching there, all of a sudden they see the ford is completely dried up, and then all of a sudden they're sleeping, and then these like, this, I'm guessing that these are Ents, but like, what is this section? It says the mist gathered about them. Above them, a few stars still glimmered faintly, but on either side there arose walls of impenetrable gloom. They were in a narrow lane between moving towers of shadow. Voices they heard, whispering and groanings, and an endless rustling sigh. The earth shook under them. Long it seemed to them that they sat there and were afraid. But at last the darkness in the room were past, and vanished between the mountain's arms. Is that the Ents? Is that some other weird dark
It did not
force?
occur to me at all that they were Ents, but now that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was like something more evil, but I didn't know what it was. Like the presence of Sauron or something. It was like then the whispers. I was like, what in the world is this? Or like the final orcs just escaping or something. Because earlier in the Helm's Deep chapter, at the beginning, it was talking about Legolas looking out to watch the orcs coming, and there was like a darkness or a haze over them or something that made it so he couldn't see. So I was like, is this that defending some kind of evil as it escapes or something?
Yeah.
But that would make a lot more sense if it was Ents and the darkness or the whispers or the gloom was from their sadness of what was destroyed.
It's like the fog in Lost or whatever they call that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of.
Like this dark force that's just all of a sudden enveloping them.
So I guess we'll never know what it is then.
Yeah. With the way that Lost ended. Yeah, that was a weird section. Like the whole chapter had like eeriness to it like that. Like you just didn't know what you were going into, and then all of a sudden these mists hit, and then like you saw like there were like massive clouds of like vapor that were coming from Orthanc. I guess that's because they were putting out the fires and they like reopened the dams, and all of a sudden the ford floods.
Right.
Like they don't know what's going on right there, and then they get there and they kind of figure some stuff out. But it's like kind of a creepy-ish chapter.
Yeah, that was creepy. But Gandalf, I think, helped everyone feel better. He's like, don't worry about it. We've waited out. We're going to be all right. So when he said that, I was like, all right. I'll trust you, Gandalf. But definitely creepy.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Gandalf kind of calmed all the people down here.
Wait, what did you think it was, Lizzie?
I had that thought. Well, I was reading this paragraph, and I was about to fall asleep, and I was like, oh, what just happened? Let me reread that. And then I was like, I'll think about this as I fall asleep.
Nice.
And then I was out.
So you were thinking about that when you fall asleep?
So
wow.
My first thought, I was like, I thought it was like some like aura of the orcs like leaving, like the bad energy of all that place just like fleeing into something else, or like going back to Sauron.
Saruman.
No, what's the I?
Sauron?
Yeah, Sauron. Like I was like, maybe it's all just like back to like whoever is like in power.
Interesting.
And then I was like, all right, let me reread that. And then I just thought it was the trees leaving. But my only thing with it being the Ents is like, I would think it would be a lot more like raucous and not just a mist, because these trees run really fast. And I was like, it would be like an earthquake if they're all just like stampeding by.
Right.
So I didn't know. I was like not sure about that. But maybe that's like the magic of the forest, that they can kind of have this like peace, even if they're like they have a lot of energy and strength, or they can just like kind of shield you from that and just run past. I don't know. But I had either option. But I kind of thought it was like the orcs just like, or that the thing that it's like they can't be in the sun and like they're sheltered by that. Like I thought it was that thing, but
interesting.
My second thought was the Ents, and I was like, yeah, maybe we'll go with that.
Kind of makes sense. That's the Ents. The Ents just in like the dead of night when you can't really see anything. Because there's another depiction of the Ents when Theoden first sees them, and like they're on the edge of the forest, and all of a sudden these Ents come and they're just like the herders, or I think that's what Gandalf says. And then there's a description of them that I forgot exactly what it was, but it was like the way they moved, they were like swift to the way they moved. They didn't just like, they weren't just slow and lumbering everywhere. I think it describes their footsteps too. Like they weren't like loud when they stepped or something like that. I forgot what it was. But I thought that was kind of a funny description too, because like they didn't. It blows my mind that they have never like seen...
wading herons.
Yeah,
in their
it was
gait.
a great.
They came swiftly from the north, walking like wading herons in their gait, but not in their speed. For their legs in their long paces beat quicker than the heron's wings. The riders crowd aloud in wonder, and some set their hands upon their sword hilts. That's a good description.
Yeah, that is great.
That is a really good one.
I love that Legolas wanted to just run into the woods, and he could tell even before he saw the eyes. He's like, they're talking. There's something happening. I could learn this language. He got all like woods nerdy about it.
I love how that's Legolas. Like Legolas loves the woods, and then Gimli hates it.
It was so great.
I love that so much.
And then they were planning their journeys together.
That is so cute. I'm like, oh
incredible.
goodness. I'm like, we better get that by the end of this. I'm already like,
if that's
build a
the
pony and
I'll
now a
so
trip
bad.
for those two back to these places. I'm like,
there's a few things that need to get tied up. Build the ponies one and their journeys. I'm like, that needs to be a movie, the Adventures of Legolas and Gimli or something.
Yeah.
Like
the way Gimli was talking about that cave.
Yeah.
And it never even
so
occurred to
cool.
me that is probably the deep of Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And the fact that Gimli is like just going on and on about how glorious this cave was, so great.
And I love that he was, after Legolas was like, oh, you guys are just ruining, like, keep working. He was like, no, we just add like a little bit, like here and there, make it perfect.
And I also thought it was Gimli's just the best. But all the great, like, he had a perfect analogy. He said, it's like you wouldn't cut down trees that are freshly bloomed in springtime for firewood.
Exactly. It was
I was like,
great.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Some caves you mine and some you just wonder at, and they're glorious. So I was like, touche, Gimli. He's got some great one-liners here.
Yeah, honestly, I loved how he described that too, because he's walking from that and he's like, oh, all of Durin's folk would be in awe at this. It's like that would be like a little, mecca for them, for all to just come there and like pour over it.
Yep.
And then Legolas is like, I don't want to go there. And then Gimli just keeps talking about it. He's like, I'm starting to regret not going to those caves. They seem pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then there's like, okay, so like on our way back, we'll pass through Fangorn. And Gimli's like, no. But he's like, I'll endure Fangorn for you if you come to the caves with me. Like their little back and forth is so cute. I love it.
You move me, Gimli. I have never heard you speak like this before.
That is so great.
I don't know if this is like, I don't know if you're gonna be with me on this one or not, but I feel like these little chapters in this book in particular, instead of the Fellowship of the Ring, like it's so intuitive and realistic and normal to me. Like I don't know, I was hiking with my cousin the other day. And we were just like, we did 10 miles, which was like the most either of us have
That's
hiked.
a hefty hike, yeah.
But we walked past this tree, and he's also environmental science. We walked past this tree, and we both stop and like look at this tree. And my cousin just goes, that looks like that one wants to talk to you. And I was like, it does. Like literally, it's just like this one random tree. And I was like, it just made me think of the Lord of the Rings so much, because like how often I'm in the woods a lot, and like I feel like I'm listening to all this stuff, and like I don't know, I don't. Like, it's not, like, spooky to me because I feel like, oh, I recognize that bird or I recognize that plant. But I just feel like as you write this or as you read it, it's just is like, I feel like it could come so naturally from just your own life and your own interest in it. But then also there's, like, the Gimlis of the world that are, like, maybe they don't like the plants. Maybe they like to go, like, on the cave adventures and, like, stuff like that. And I hate caves, and I can't stand being under caves. And then every family vacation we find some, like, cave to go explore, and I'm like having a panic attack, and
wait,
it's
is
like
this
pitch
actually
black.
you? You're saying
yes,
your
like
family goes and finds
the amount of caves I've been in, I'm like, guys, I cannot go in another one. So yeah, and then I'll like leave the cave. We were in Hawaii one time, and there's this massive cave. I can't do caves, like they freak me out. So I went in and I like ran out. I was like, guys, have fun. And then I just like climbed a tree and sat in the tree on the beach. And I was like, this is so Gimli and Legolas. Like, it's just like your own, like how you view the world and what you enjoy about being outside. It's like just written into the story. And then also the fact that like nature always makes a comeback and always wins. Like the water coming back. And then I was like reading a commentary thing or like watching videos, and it's like talking about climate change and like, oh, the sea's gonna rise, like the weather's gonna get worse, and it's just like it all is like so I don't know.
Tolkien
I just
is
love
a very
that.
John Muir kind
I
of
know.
figure. Like I feel like there's a lot of environmentalism in this book.
Yeah. I love
Um,
that.
Yeah, I kind of love that whole idea. I feel like he's always like lamenting people who are like, you know, doing the industrialization of war or like, you know, changing scenery or nature in order to like, you know, achieve their ends. And even like the characters in this, like they have the discussion about the cave even. And Legolas is like, oh, your people would move into this cave and they would like, you know, make it like it wasn't like it is now. Like they'd change things. They like 100 dwarves would come in and like change everything. And he's like, no. He's like, my people would come in and stare and wonder at this. He's like, you don't chop down, you know, young, beautiful trees like you're saying, like letters flowering in spring. And it's like this understanding that, yes, the world has to move forward and there's like things that need to change. But there's beauty that like the best people in Middle Earth just sit back and enjoy. Like you don't change those things. You don't chop down Fangorn Forest because this is the oldest forest. It's like this is the forest. So I kind of love that part of what Tolkien seems to be trying to communicate here. I think he's trying to communicate that a lot in his writing.
And they're all like people of the land. Like the elves love the trees. The Shire is farming and you're living off the land. Even Rohan is like, it's all about the landscapes and like
the horses.
Yeah. It's good.
And then the places that are not about that are the ones that are destroying the land.
Metal and wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. Ryan says we need a Legolas and Gimli buddy comedy. I think it'd be a great movie.
Yeah,
like
that'd be awesome.
A little side comedy with them. Just their journeys at the end. Oh, that'd be so lovely. I was glad that they kind of like went through a little battle. I was curious too. Gimli comes out injured and he says his number first. And in my head, I'm like, I wonder if Legolas had more than him, but he felt sympathy for Gimli because Gimli has this big wound in his head and he went lower to give Gimli the win. Because Legolas starts off and the count's like 20
right off the
or
bat.
something like that. I'm like, there's no way he lost.
And then Gimli caught up when he jumped down to like clear out the culvert thing. Okay. But yeah, by the end, these numbers don't line up. And then Legolas was doing some knife work or whatever, 24. And I was like, that didn't occur to me. Yeah. You're right. He might have.
I feel like Legolas like knows how to smooth things over now. I feel like he's very good at that.
And he seems not prideful to me. So for him, he maybe doesn't care. But maybe I accidentally also think of him as a little bit clueless, where he wouldn't even realize that that's a problem. He's like, oh, what? I killed 80. Is that a lot? I don't know. But you're right. I like thinking that he was emotionally intelligent and picked up on it. That's good.
Yeah. And then way more people are knocking their weapons in this story than I had ever read before. Like Gimli knocks his axe.
What does that mean?
Like you break it. Not like break it, but like part of the tip.
So you just like used it and it got...
Yeah, I'll show you a picture.
Okay. I just thought they were like chipped, like from battle.
Yeah, I mean like chipped, like deeply chipped.
Like it's been through some
But you
stuff.
said it like they do it purposefully, but they don't.
No, they don't do it purposefully.
Yeah. It just gets worn
like,
down.
He did it because his stroke fell because someone was wearing an iron collar. And so his axe hit this iron collar and then it just like dented or like chipped part of the sharp part of the blade. No.
I was kind of getting sick of I think it was Éomer and Aragorn like kept calling their swords by name. I was like, okay.
It's like again. And calling your sword? Isn't there something better?
That was a little cheesy too. They were like
much.
jumping out to battle.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're just nerds. That's like what nerds would do.
And
like, all right, relax. Just, you have a cool sword. We all know that.
Yeah, it's like I understand why they cut those things in the movie rather than yelling your sword's name.
You guys have anything else in this chapter before we wrap it up?
Darkness blacker than night on both sides of the river. No, just didn't get what that was.
That was so weird.
So it said Saruman had dwelt there long and had not been idle. So it gets back to what you were saying, Lizzie, about how long was this thing going towards Orkland stuff. But then I even just thought, how old is he? How long has he been there? And how long was he good before he started to go bad? And just thinking about it.
I would love that too, to know like when his fall started to occur. Like when in his mind did he start changing things, being like, oh, I'm gonna go down this path now. probably wasn't like this instantaneous moment, but I'm curious if something happened.
I like to think that something did happen and it was ring connected. Like at a moment when the ring either went to Bilbo or maybe when it passed from Bilbo to Frodo, like something, I don't know why, but I like the idea of it being somehow connected where there was like a deeper evil where he was being drawn to the ring. And I'm still wondering, because didn't it say early on that his nickname was like Ring Maker or Ring?
He called himself that.
He called him. So it just feels like a weird thing. Like he might have been in tune with rings already on some level. So it'd be kind of cool if there was some timeline that connected it.
Because he does make a ring, and it does have some kind of power. And he calls himself, Saruman of many colors. Ring Maker, I think he calls himself.
And so it makes me think, was he trying to make his own rings of power? And were some of them actually powerful? Because then I think of Galadriel, where she said, when you have power, you're wearing a ring, like the rings can something like see other rings, or there's like an increased awareness of other rings. So then I thought maybe this was all his like wanting to get back to the rings. I don't know.
Yeah, it is really cool. Yeah, I would love to like have an inventory of all the rings. I got some people. Some people did give me like some spoilers for some of the rings, for like where they are located right now, which is a bit of a bummer. But it's not like crazy spoilers, but it's kind of fun.
But you're gonna shield us from those spoilers.
Yeah, don't worry.
At the right moment. Oh, okay, nice.
I don't even know if it's gonna happen in the book though. It's not like Harry Potter where I know this stuff like very well. So I'm curious. If it doesn't pop up, I'll definitely let you guys know.
Yeah, whenever the moment is right.
But I don't know if this is gonna be in the appendices, or I'm guessing there might be some moments that come up that we learn that. But
so did he write the appendices, planning that to be part of the book? How does this work? Because there's so much information in those that I feel like we need. But if he just published them separately or didn't publish them, I'm so confused.
I think he published them with the book.
Okay.
I think.
At least some of them, yeah.
I can't be sure of that. But I'm next to positive.
Because otherwise it's just you have a incomplete story or loopholes.
Yeah.
And I even I didn't look this up at all, but the Instagram algorithm gave me a thing today where someone said his original version of The Hobbit was a little different.
Yeah.
And then he changed it when he started writing Lord of the Rings, because he's like, ooh, I'm going to have that be the One Ring. Yeah. And I'm going to have it be that Gollum didn't give it up willingly. Because I think the original version, it was a little more willing or something. But then the way he changed it was great, because it was ahead of the story saying, oh yeah, for a while, Bilbo used to lie about how this happened. But then the real way it happened is blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, getting into all that stuff is fun, yeah.
It's deep.
I'm going to reread The Hobbit after this.
Yeah. Treebeard commanded me to welcome the Lord of Rohan with fitting words. So Treebeard knew he was coming.
Yeah.
I'm curious how. And then I thought, did Gandalf just say, was Gandalf just so good at predicting all this? So he was there already and kind of said, hey, Treebeard, this is what's going on. I'm going to go wrap things up at Helm's Deep. We're going to come over here. I'm going to make sure Theoden shows up. Because then he's like, oh, Theoden, you don't need to. I'm just going to go. You can if you want. But then, it just made me wonder, was it a plan ahead of time?
I feel like tree or end communication is better than anybody else's. I feel like they could just pass it across trees or something like that.
So those ones that were,
right? On the breeze.
Ooh, the roots.
Yep.
And maybe that's the Ents did march quicker. All of a sudden all the trees got up and left. And then the trees were passing them in the night, I guess, if that was the Ents. So I'm sure there was probably some word that came to Treebeard maybe earlier on about that.
No, you're right. That makes a lot of sense.
Or maybe he has really good vision. I don't know.
The eagles. Just take a flight real quick.
Ent riding an eagle.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I had was I liked Theoden in his response to Merry, where he remembered Tobald the Old and his herb lore. Just the fact that he was even listening and then responding. Cool, It was just so polite, so kingly. And he's like, yeah, well, we're going to talk and there's going to be no timeline. You come on by, I'm going to host you. Felt great. I was like, oh man, Theoden in the book is awesome.
And he knew what hobbits were.
Yeah, and he was so cool.
Our songs don't do you justice. You do so much more than that. I really like that.
And they were touched that someone had heard of them.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And they were so kind and cordial to one another. I loved it. They were great.
Yeah.
Read an essay about that. All right, let's wrap it up. Give me some of your favorites. Who was your favorite character? who is the hot tamale or the basket of mushrooms or whatever that is. Galadriel's hair. And what was your favorite moment in these chapters?
I gotta think.
I think I gotta say Gimli's my favorite because I already said that, and part of the reason I said it is because of these chapters. The poetry about caves, not literal poems, but just poetic words, and in battle, and he was funny. Just a well-rounded dude. Love it.
Yeah.
Hot tamale is a little bit tougher. The hair's yeah, it's like, oh man. I feel like maybe Aragorn. That's partially just because of the movie Tamale energy.
Yeah.
But him standing up on the top and trying to like talk to people and being threatening and saying, let's jump out onto the little walkway and clear orcs. Like there was high energy of Tamale in there.
Yeah. I'd probably give my tamale to Éomer. He
Yeah,
showed a lot of
that's
hot
good.
tamale energy. Like, he showed himself to be a worthy prince there, someone worthy to take over for Theoden when Theoden dies. Like,
Yep.
that seems like I would follow him. He was, like, very
Mhm.
courageous right now. Favorite, I'd probably say the same as Gimli. This was a great Gimli chapter, I thought. Yeah, I'm going to go Gimli.
Okay, I was gonna say Gimli for my favorite,
Yes.
and then I was gonna say I think it's Merry for
Oh,
the
okay.
hot
Yeah,
tamale
that's
because
good.
at the end I feel like he was really holding it together,
Yeah,
and then
it's
was
great.
like trying to be all like extravagant and like really respectful of everything. He's like, yeah, like he told me to, give you a good welcome. I like that part.
I kind of got the
Hot tamale
feeling he was
energy.
not drinking as much wine. Like
Yeah.
Pippin's like, have
Yeah.
another glass, and he's like, no, I've got a job to do.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
just
for
wait.
sure.
And then as soon as they're done, he's like, all right, good, let's party again.
Yeah, that's great.
I think my favorite moment was the charge out in the battle, just at the end to kind of
Pushing the
win.
line back.
And in reading it, feeling like they actually could have won the battle in that moment, and being like, whoa, Gandalf didn't come save them.
Yeah.
I feel like they ended the battle right there. So yeah, I thought that was great. I think that was a favorite moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
And I reread the chapter, and it still was great. So I was like, yeah, I could reread it again.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I feel like I'd rather reread it than rewatch it. Like if I had to
Wow.
choose one.
Pretty epic.
Yeah.
Although I
Love
do
that.
feel like I need to look at what Helm's Deep looks like again,
Yeah.
like because
Pull up
Just
the map.
Even
pause
in
it. And
even
then
in the movie we just got to it, but we didn't finish the battle. So I'm like, yeah, the layers and the things and
Yeah.
the tower and where's the river coming from, and then where are the caves? Is it behind the tower? I was like, yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it was
And I'm
confusing.
a little confused, but
I think my favorite moment was kind of close. It was for some reason I really liked Erkenbrand, and when he came down with like his horn and his red shield. So it's like they're pushing him back. They kind of won the battle there, and then all of a sudden they finally get reinforcements, and it's like, oh, then now they're truly gonna win. It was kind of cool. Kind of like that moment.
My favorite is probably just the Legolas and Gimli conversation about the caves and then having to like visit each other and like,
Yeah.
okay, you go to the
That was
cave, I'll
cute.
go to the forest. I really like that.
Their dynamic is great, even with Merry and Pippin at the end. Like Gimli's like, oh, but the smoke, and
Yeah.
he's like, why are you rubbing it in my face? And then Legolas is instantly like, yeah, but at their wine too. I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
do some wine.
That's great.
So just that dynamic, they're just like perfect
Gimli's like,
balance to it
I
all.
wasn't so happy right now. I'd like kill you.
Yeah.
He's like, my anger and my joy are so mixed right now.
And then I think, was it Theoden who was like, I can tell like we've run across your friends because just like
Yeah.
the way you're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
to each other.
Yeah, it was
That
cute.
was good.
You guys know each other, don't you?
Yeah.
Jane, you got any?
Any standout?
Well, I kind of said it before when Merry and Pippin are welcoming
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
him
moment.
into. I can't think of the name.
Isengard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, does Saruman know that you're here to like welcome us? He's caught up. With
Oh wait,
them.
and
he's
Saruman's
busy.
like still upstairs.
I know,
right?
that's so weird.
That's crazy. With
Yeah.
Worm.
But what did Mary say?
tail.
Something
Tongue?
like Treebeard's in charge.
Yeah,
Treebeard's the
Treebeard's
warden
taking
of
over
the
management.
that's
management.
wild.
Yes,
Of,
I love that.
It's a
Like,
great.
yeah,
He's
Saruman's here. He's
hiding
not in
up there.
charge right now.
Why?
Oh yeah, see that's what I thought was so funny and like clever.
Yeah, the end of this chapter it did have some good comedy to it. I loved it. Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us on our journey of the Fellowship of the First Time Readers.
See ya.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Wow. Flotsam and jetsam.
No, you get to learn what that is.
chapter I read like the whole
Yeah.
Really?
Jen went ahead. It was an
Love
accident.
that. You actually, that was a good chapter. You liked
They're
it?
so messed up in the
Yeah.
How
No,
does it
you
get
look-
published like that?
Annoying.
I
Oh,
don't know.
no, what did you see, Danny?
The Palantir.
Yeah, it's so good. 'Cause
Cool.
Yeah, how, you
Wait,
read
what?
all those
No
chapters? or
spoilers.
listened?
I almost am done with the.
Whoa.
Only Flotsam Jetsam.
Yeah.
Love that.
one.
We're
Is
just
this
reading
that?
to the end of
The
the
voice of Sauron? Yeah, to the end of the book. I think it's just 3 more chapters, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because Mary just goes. I thought that's why it didn't seem like a new chapter because it's like they.
Yeah.
Yep.
They
Flows
see Mary
right
and
into
then
it.
Flows right into it.
You're
Yeah.
ahead of the
Telling
game.
all the whole story. Except the funny thing is, when I first read it or listened to it,
Huh.
I was like, "How did they find Mary and Pippin?" Oh,
Someone-
I thought we're done.
No, we're pretty much
We
right
are
on.
pretty much
Someone on chat too says it's your favorite chapter.
Flotsam?
Yeah. They said they listen to it. They listen to the audio off of it when they can't sleep.
What?
Oh my.
It's just like a lovely chapter. They said.
Whoa.
Yeah,
cool.
because he's
I
just
like that.
explain. Well,
I don't know what my favorite chapter is.
Yeah, that is a hard thing to choose.
Mm.
I don't remember half of them.
But that's a good like filter for what is not your favorite.
Yeah.
You know, but like then the ones that stick out the most, you're like,
I'm like half
if you could
reading
go
this
back
book.
and read just one.
I'll like be the representative of the person
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is barely hanging on.
I kind of love it. It adds a good dynamic to the pod.
Yeah. And now I'm a little worried you're gonna fade out at the second
Yeah,
book here.
with Frodo and
Well,
Sam.
Frodo and Sam are not that entertaining.
Oh no.
Every time they're like on the screen, I'm like, okay.
Mm.
Oh
Although-
my.
That is so true,
Hoping-
though.
I'm hoping
I'm
that
kinda with
it's
you.
different.
Well, in the movies, yeah, for sure. In the books, I'm kind of more excited to get back to them.
And then
Because Frodo's so
Frodo
much stronger
bothers
with it.
me.
There
and-
has to be so
Yeah.
much more narrative than them just like walking up the mountain. in the
Yeah.
book.
There is,
Yeah.
And
That's just
Sam
like-
is the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People,
And Smeagol is there.
I mean, like in some of the videos that I'm making, people talk about
Oh.
like who their favorite characters are, and
Smeagol.
consistently. You guys want me to say this or not?
Yeah.
Consistently, 90% of the people say Faramir.
I don't know who
What?
that is.
You don't know.
No,
who he
you
is.
know, because in the movies, he's the character we just
But
met.
he's in Frodo. He's gonna come up in Frodo and
Oh,
Very
he's
interesting.
the
I
he's the
don't
brother.
like him.
He looks like Robin
Yeah.
Hood a little, you know.
He's
doing,
the brother of
Yeah,
they
Boromir's
say
brother.
He
Nice.
is the greatest book
Why?
character. I'm not gonna tell you why.
No, tell me a little bit. Once you give me a spoiler, I need all of it.
They just say he's totally different in the
Okay,
book version.
that's
Oh,
good.
interesting.
I don't
That's
love
cool.
him in the movie
Yeah, because
at
I
all.
didn't
Yeah, I was
like
gonna
him
say
in the
I
movie.
definitely like him.
You liked him in the movie.
Wait, no, I said I don't like
You
him.
don't?
Yeah. I like him.
Ooh, yeah, I
I
do
just-
like
But
him.
I
you're
didn't
gonna like
like-
him. Way
I
So
don't
more.
then
remember
you'll
him.
both hate
I
him.
don't
No, I'm
But
still
just
gonna like
what we
him.
watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's a little. Can you trust him? I don't know. But it's only because he's a little skeptical. He's
his-
like, we're way behind enemy lines. Who are you and what are you doing here? And that's
No,
reasonable.
but he, like,
also
wants
his
the
dad
ring.
was so-
But- I don't know enough about
So-
it. But
No,
he
he
kind of-
wants
he
the
had his
ring.
chance.
No.
He had a sword and he was like
Yeah.
holding
That's
the
why
ring.
he keeps
Well,
it though. But he's like,
also-
tell my dad I've got like the best gift for you.
That's
Oh,
what I'm
he does say,
saying.
"We're
though.
going to
It's only
Gondor."
to show his dad that he could do something right.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess so.
He doesn't actually want it.
And
Oh, he
apparently,
wants it.
there's this,
No.
It's
again,
like the
spoiler.
Boromir trait though.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, but apparently in the book, he like doesn't touch it. Like wants nothing to do with it. He's like
And that would make
super
a big
honorable
difference.
and noble in
Yep.
the book. But again, I don't know. This is just all
Oh, and
hearsay.
that's a good parallel, like to the brother, right? That was like
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
chasing
yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Frodo. I don't know if that's
And that
right,
makes more sense of why
literary.
his father wouldn't like him if
Yeah.
he's like his dad's not his number one priority.
Yeah, and there's, I guess, like a theory, like a side theory, or like a fan theory kind of thing, that they say because in the Council of Elrond, Boromir says that his brother had, like, multiple
dreams
visions
first.
He had
Yeah.
the dreams first, and then Boromir had one, and he decides to go. Boromir decides to go because he's the older. So some people say that like the fate or like the gods of Middle Earth were wooing
Ooh.
Faramir to come to Rivendell, and he was supposed to be the one. But Boromir,
He
because
would
of
have
his
been a
brashness,
great member of the Fellowship.
cuts in.
Wait, the dad had nothing to do with it.
Well, because that's funny in the scene in the movie we just saw.
Yeah.
And I thought, ooh, is that going to come up in the next book? Because that's going to be interesting. Lord Denethor, he
Remember
says,
these names.
well, it's because, yeah.
We watched them 20 times.
He says that he told him to go up to the council
Yeah.
because of rumors of the ring,
Yeah.
with the sole purpose of getting the ring and bringing it
Bring it
back,
to Gondor,
which
yeah.
almost like plants the whole idea that Boromir's motives weren't pure to begin with.
Yeah.
And it makes me not like Boromir if that's true. So now I'm just curious if that is part of the book or not.
Yeah. Denethor's
Um,
character changes a lot too.
So wow.
So we'll see. But thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Exciting things
I
ahead.
just recorded all that, so
Nice.
Bonus.
yeah, bonus.
Perfect timing because I was about to fall asleep.
Yay, you made it.